Hey everybody, Pierre Marquette 1223 here with something a little bit different and a little bit the same at the same time. We're going to be doing a product review today of something that I don't do a whole lot of on the channel, but I think this one is worthy enough for it because of the significance of it and the basically time capsule nature of this thing. We're looking at a MTH Premier Santa Fe 210-4 3-rail Texas type steam locomotive that was released all the way back in early 2001. That is basically a brand new unit. It has, to my knowledge, either only been out of the box for display or maybe even not out of the box at all. It has never been run to the knowledge of the previous owner. It has basically been in one family, grandfather who passed on, and I bought it from the grandson who was a buddy of mine, and basically took the opportunity to get this beast of an engine. I have not even gotten it out of the box yet because I wanted to unbox it with you guys and go over some of the features and detail of this engine just to see what MTH was pumping out back in early to mid 2001. Around the time when O-scale models really started to ramp up in the quality, detail, and variety of what was offered back in, start really jumping up from the mid to late 90s when Lionel started to get their game together, and then MTH had already started getting the gun rolling, ball rolling, about getting scale models out into the market and basically kind of getting away from the more toyish nature that O-gauge has had a reputation of at that point for over half a century. But this engine is obviously, as mentioned, is a Santa Fe 210-4 Texas type steam locomotive, cab number 5012. It was originally offered in the 2001 Volume 1 catalog on the MTH's Premier line, and was delivered to dealers in March of 2001. The original MSRP of this engine was $1,095.95. And now if you guys think that O-gauge has gotten more expensive over the years, as have other gauges, you would be wrong. It has always been expensive, and it's never going to get any cheaper. It's the value of the dollar and inflation that affects how much the price of stuff changes. Lionel just re-released this very same tooling about a year or so ago, and the price with all the Lionel guts in it and the tooling being refreshed drove the price up probably about $600–700. So when you give the depreciation over a 20 to 25 year gap from when this engine was released to when the previous engines on the Lionel line were released, because remember, it's the same tooling after MTH liquidated a lot of its assets. It's basically the same thing cosmetically. Under the hood, it's a little bit different. But the price difference between when this engine was released in 2001 with Proto Sound 2 and when it got Lionel Legacy put inside is only about $600–700. So in terms of the MSRP. So it's not like the prices have gone up astronomically, but the value of the dollar has gone down, which of course drives inflation and brings the price up. So, but the overview, as read off from MTH's website, because you can still find all these products on their website, even all these years later. These products are still readily available and are, well, the overviews are readily available and you can read them. And MTH has on their site, the ATSF Railroad introduced the first 210-4 steamer in 1919 when they experimented with a four-wheel trailing truck on a 210-2 engine. However, it was not until 1930 that they accepted shipment of a genuine 210-4 Texas engine built for them by Baldwin. Number 5000, aka the Madam Queen, as the Santa Fe employees dubbed this monster, weighed in at 502,600 pounds and generated 95,584 pounds of tractive effort. Later, ATSF Texas engines were even larger and boasted enormous 74-inch drivers. The Texas engines that did not begin as oil burners were eventually converted. The 210-4s performed very well in heavy freight service, and the Santa Fe ultimately purchased 36 of the engines, which helped carry World War II tonnage. MTH presents this grand locomotive as a beautifully detailed die-cast Premier model with a long list of impressive features. And the features are on the side of the box, but I can also read them off as well on the website. Die-cast boiler and tender bodies, die-cast metal chassis, authentic paint scheme, metal wheels and axles, constant voltage headlight, die-cast truck sides, precision Pitman flywheel equipped motor, locomotive speed control, engineer and fireman figures, metal handrails and decorative bell, decorative metal whistle, operating marker lights, lighted cab interior, operating proto-smoker system. The engine is capable of operating on 072 curves. It is also equipped with an operating tender backup light, remote control proto-coupler, proto-sound 2.0 with the digital command system featuring freight yard proto-effects. The unit itself measures 33¼ inches long by 2 2.5 inches wide and 4 1/8 inches tall. And the total weight of the engine is approximately 15 pounds. So this thing is a beast. It will pull anything. It also has traction tires. So if you factor that in, it will pull the house down and then some. So anything you need to move on your O-gauge layout will definitely be moved with this thing. And funny thing is even though it's listed as you can find it locally, any support with it, I'm sure that MTH probably offers little to nothing in terms of finding one of these things, if anybody has one brand new today, or if there's even much support left for these. So anyway, we're going to get into opening and unboxing this thing, and we will check out this time capsule from the early 2000s of O-gauge model railroading and see what exactly is still inside this box after 23 years. So it's going to be fun. Stick around. Okay, now to cut out some of the nitty-gritty on this, because obviously boxes can be a pain, I've already opened the box. We're going to take and slide out the styrofoam insert which contains the engine to see what exactly is inside this box. And as previously mentioned, the engine is heavy, and if you know anything about unboxing these engines after they have not been opened ever or very little, they fit very snugly inside the box. So now that we have gotten rid of our box here, which of course has that classic MTH logo on it, we're going to set that off to the side. And even the styrofoam was given the classic MTH treatment. We're going to pop that off. Even in the styrofoam, that MTH logo is on there. So this is how our engine looked. Basically, I mean, I don't know how much better it can get. A little static in there. I don't know how much better it can get from 22, 23 years later. Nobody said I was good at math. It looks about as factory can be. The only thing I did not see was a manual that could very well still be in the box. In our accessories compartment, we have still what appear to be new old stock traction tires and a little bit of liquid smoke fluid. And it has liquid in the bottle after all these years. And also down in here is a replacement dummy coupler that probably could be inserted on the front of the locomotive for double headers. I'm assuming that there's probably not any coupler on there right now, or there's a scale dummy coupler just for aesthetics. But we're going to put those back in here, and then we are going to open this engine up, unwrap it, and set it out on some track for display purposes. It's going to get real exciting. Okay, I have grabbed one of my 36-inch pieces of tubular 3-rail track for our purposes, because we don't want to damage those flanges and I don't want to scratch up this table. And the funny thing is the track is longer than the table, and the engine should almost be as long as the table is wide, which is crazy to think about, seeing this thing stretched out for the first time. But we're going to take and get out the tender first, and if any of you had never really experienced the feeling of grabbing the ribbons on these deluxe engines and lifting them out of their sleeves, It's pretty spectacular. You think these ribbons are in here just to make it look pretty, but they do serve a purpose, and it allows you to easily lift these out. And don't throw those ribbons away. Keep those ribbons, put them back in the box, because you will want those if you put the engine back in, and if you decide to package it back up, which this one probably won't go back in the box because I'm going to want to show it off. So, but even the styrofoam inside actually has special numbers and everything for this locomotive. And now we're going to unwrap our plastic sleeve, which again, this engine has been out at all and was put away according to what I was described. It was packaged again remarkably well, and actually, yes, you can tell it's been out because it's still got dust on it. So, but either way, look at the absolute size of this freaking tender. Good God. I mean, compared to my hand, the trucks alone are almost as long as the palm of my hand. Absolute freaking animal this thing is. And yeah, it's a little dusty, it needs to be wiped off, so it obviously has been out on the shelf, but looking at the wheels on the trucks, you'd have no idea this was run at all. Well, my manual focus is on. Let me see. There. Turn the manual focus off, put it on automatic. So let's see if it'll do it here. Yeah. You can tell how clean those wheels are. It's even got the styrofoam inserts to keep the trucks from swiveling, doesn't take any paint off. We're going to pull those out. And you even have some foam in the middle of your trucks here to protect your screws where your trucks pivot. They're in there. All of your typical hardware on here. You got the on and off switch to turn right there. It's a little hard to see, I know. You got your on and off switch for your sound adjustment. Obviously your electro coupler, or your proto coupler as MTH likes to call it. The old school plugs to connect the engine and the tender, because that's what they did back in the day. No wireless drawbar. This thing was state of the art back in 2001. And we are going to set this beast on the track, and it is absolutely enormous for a tender. And when the locomotive is all out and assembled on the track, we will get some better shots of it up close. But now I'm going to take and get this plastic stuffed in the box, and we're going to take the engine out, the piece de resistance in this whole thing. So stick around for that for a second. Okay, now I've come around the other side of the table here, so that way I can pull out the engine, because I don't want to reach in front and block the view and also potentially knock the tender off the table. We're going to grab this engine out, which I'm assuming is going to be, oh yeah, oh this thing's huge. This thing weighs a ton. We're going to pull that out of the box here. It obviously wants to grab a hold of the styrofoam here. And same thing as before. Basically wrapped as though it has never been out, which, again, to reiterate, to our knowledge, it has only been out of the box for display only, never ran. And I did ask, and the story goes is that he was one of those guys that kind of bought things just to have them. And in the process of doing so, he got this monstrosity. And there was a couple other engines. I have one other engine that had this issue too, where it simply was just too freaking large to run, but it looked real pretty sitting there. So instead of sending it back in, he kept it, held onto it, and they turned into big, expensive display pieces. And oh by golly. Now, I've never had a O-scale engine this big and this crazy. And what in the world am I seeing here? I don't know what these brass pieces are. But we're going to... Oh, they're footboards. or some type of thing here. Oh, I see what they come off. Okay, that's easy enough to put on. All right, so the footboards on the side of the engine are separately applied pieces, and they have seemed to have come off. But you know, buying a second-hand locomotive can come with its own set of challenges. Pretty neat, honestly, I'd say, instead of casting that stuff directly into the shell. And we're going to pull this out. We're going to turn this thing upside down. Because holy cow, guys. And again, this is the side that the boards came off on. But look at the size of this thing. My God, and it weighs an absolute metric ton. I mean, if the whole engine alone weighs 15 pounds, give or take, then this thing must weigh at least 10. I mean, it is absolutely huge. I'm going to put it on the track, make it look nice, put the running boards on it, and then we'll take a few quick looks around this thing, because it is an absolute beast. And it is almost as long as the table is wide, and so you'll get a better look at it when I get it put together. I'll put the running boards on, that way it looks all pretty, and we'll get some looks around this thing as to what the detailing was like back in 2000, 2001 on the finest engines that were available at the time. So let me put these running boards on and reposition the camera, and we'll take a further look. Now I'm actually going to freehand the camera here, which I don't do very often, and I'll let the camera focus as we go through. Or, yeah, we'll see how it gets. But this thing is absolutely gigantic. Somebody who's never had a scale O-gauge engine this big, it is an absolute monster. It will be, for now, mostly a shelf queen, but I will get it running. Not today, because I want to go through it, because these engines, especially from this era, had a particular list of problems that could be detrimental to it. But just a quick look around on this thing. I mean, for 2001, this detailing is pretty freaking incredible. Sorry about my shaky camera work here, but for 2001, even today, it ain't half bad. Look around the rear. There's that tender light. And as somebody who has seen... Is the truck off? Oh yeah, I'm off a little bit. Put that on. There we go. As somebody who has seen 5011, the closest numerically surviving sister to the 5012, I can say without a doubt, it's basically as advertised. Sorry, we're going to go a little backlit here on this side. I can't really get light for this side. I'm just doing this in my kitchen. But, I mean, this is some pretty extraordinary stuff, even for the era of which this is from. And I'll give it a little cleanup, all that other stuff, but I mean, look at the front. That iconic Santa Fe look and front end on this. I mean, truly extraordinary for the era. Now, I did figure out why the running boards came off. That's because they actually were glued onto the shell, and the glue has simply failed over time. Look at the stuff even on top. So I'm just going to reapply those with a little bit of glue. Notice that oil burning tender, big oil burning tender, and that should fix that. I mean, even today, this engine truly is extraordinary for its detailing and overall aesthetic. Really grateful to own it. Never thought I would ever own anything this big. I mean, look at the size of this on that table. It truly is giant. I can't get over that, how absolutely huge this thing is. When we get it running, obviously I'll probably do a video of that, but for now, this is about all I can really do. So if you want to get one of these engines secondhand, at this point I would highly recommend it. Especially if you're an MTH modeler who wants to stick with the MTH system and whatever. I mean, these Protosound 2 engines seem to have nothing but good reviews, remarks, and reliability to them, assuming that you take care of them, put your BCRs in them, etc. The two things that can go wrong with these engines that ultimately leads to them getting blown up is that the speakers can rot, which will cause magnetic dust to get all over the circuit board and the tender, because the tender is where all the electronics are, and that will cause shorts and you will fry the board. The other thing is it's not so much as common on the Protosound 2 engines as it was the Protosound 1s, is that the dead battery in the tender, which no doubt this probably has the original battery in it, will ultimately power surge the system when you try to recharge it, and will ultimately fry it. So you always should check the insides of the tenders to make sure that you have a good battery, or as most people put in them, BCRs, to make sure that these engines obviously don't die on you, because you can't really get the PS2 boards new anymore. You have to get a second-hand board, or you have to completely upgrade these things, which there are options now, but they're not fun options, so unless you're into that sort of thing. But either way, pretty stoked to have this thing, pretty exciting. This thing, it looks absolutely beastly. It's huge, and can't wait to see this thing take its first steps, because like I said, this engine has never turned a wheel under its own power since it was manufactured. So 23 years later, it will finally turn a wheel under its own power, and then we'll put it out on display, because an engine this pretty and this magnificent does not deserve to be boxed up. It's way too good for that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the brief little review and the overlook, and the fun of unboxing this time capsule, because it's definitely been worth it, and I've been waiting for this engine for a while and can't wait to make it function again. So when the engine's running again, I'll definitely do a brief video of that, and hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you at the next one. 1223.